Hi, I'm Angeline. I'm in the Huichol Desert of California, Mexico on the summer solstice. Summer solstice cuts the year in half. It is when the sun seems to rise and set for several days on exactly the same place of the landscape. The sun stands still. It is a time when the crops are almost ready to harvest. It's the longest day of the year. We celebrate the sun, and we honor that it will go from us, and we have to live right lives for the remainder of the year to make sure that at the winter solstice, when the sun goes furthest to the south, that it returns to us. You've heard of summer solstice ceremonies and you've heard of winter solstice ceremonies. The winter solstice is all about beseeching the sun to return so that we can have warmth and life. The summer solstice is about celebrating the sun has given us its most. All over the landscape are natural ways that the sun plays with the land and creates natural sun calendars. People throughout their daily lives living on this land would notice these natural sun events and enhance them to become sun calendars. Now, one way to look at it is that people did this so that people would know when was the appropriate time to do things in their life. And certainly that's partly true, but I'm actually coming to believe that people are listening for the sun to tell them what to do next. It's less about people managing their life, and it's more about following the call of nature. And I believe that when looking at it from that perspective, then people know when the sun is calling them to have certain ceremonies, when the sun is calling them to move to a different camp to harvest certain things. The reason I've kind of been leaning this way for a little while, but I saw something that made me see that a pictograph panel was probably painted in such a way as the sun actually guided where the brush would go. Well, looking at it outside of the sun, it just looks like a panel of images. And you want to look at those images and say, what's the story here? But when I saw it at a certain time, I saw that the sun passed over the rock in certain ways that guided the brush strokes that created the images. And that gave me a whole different perspective on the people-nature interaction in prehistoric times in the Southwest. It's a symphony. It's like making music on the rock with the paint. Now, we're not here today by the way, I'll show you that in a different video. Today we're here. This is not a pictograph site per se, although there is some paint, I believe, used in part of this. It's a natural feature that has been enhanced, but it's also an enormous petroglyph. Are you ready? We're going to go up on this big boulder here that's next to the cave, which is right over there. First thing we see is a little bit of a grinding slick. It's rubbed smooth here. Move up the rock and boom! A gigantic yoni petroglyph. Now, this is about 3 feet tall. I mean, just for point of reference to see how big these boulders are. That's huge. Now, I've talked about yoni petroglyphs before, and these occur naturally on the rocks, but not in this way. Usually it looks like erosion. People say no, they were never enhanced. Yoni petroglyphs are only naturally occurring. Well, this petroglyph is my argument for that. This kind of petroglyph appears all over the Huichol Desert, and I'm going to get close to it so you can see. There's nothing natural about this construction. Nothing. I mean, maybe it started as kind of a sunburst in the rock, but it has clearly been tooled to become something it didn't start to be. Let's see if we can see any solstice-ish markings. This is sort of, it's about 7:30 a.m. on the summer solstice. Well, let's see. This is interesting. I don't know if this has to do with the solstice, but do you see? Actually, oh my gosh, yes, look. See how there's a cross in here? Sunrise on the solstice, one portion is filled in. Maybe we've got equinoxes and and the other solstice filling in at different times. Maybe at a certain time of day, this whole cross lights up. I mean, we got the 4 directions here: east, west, north, and south. Let's see, I'm going to pull out my compass to see if it really lines up that way. There you go. I laid my compass right down on that cross, and it aligned perfectly to north, south, east, west. I actually propose that there's nothing natural about this one at all because of the way it lines up. But, you know, I wasn't there at its creation. Looks pretty intentional, pretty symmetrical. I had an idea with this petroglyph here. Considering that, I don't know, I just thought I'd play with the lines a little bit. And what I figured out is by taking my tripod here and placing it right in the center of the cross, if I stand, like, you know, it falls over because the rock is sloping. But if I stand here on this line and if I stand, you know, facing this, and I line this up with the long line here, that creates exactly the balance point for this stick. So that's how I know it's can you see this? That's how I know that that's aligned properly, how it's straight up and down, that I'm not tipped too much this way or too much this way. And when this is lined properly, which, you know, this tripod is not a perfect balancing stick. And anyway, there we go. Okay, so you know that's aligned properly. And then it's perpendicular to the earth. I'm trying to figure out if the shadows it casts line up with these rays of the sun. And using my star chart app, I can see where the sun rises and sets at different sun events throughout the year, so I can make some guesstimations. Why not? So like I said, today's summer solstice, so using the star chart app, I can see where the sun, exactly where the sun rose this morning. And I placed the sunrise here, like the stick facing exactly the direction of the sunrise as it crosses Lynn's middle place where the stick would be planted. That means the shadow it cast would go this way, and it would cross that line right there. Sunset should be even more spectacular. Summer solstice sunset. I think it's going to set right there. According to the star chart app, looks like it will. And it's going to, if the stick is standing upright, in the hole right here, the shadow it's going to cast is right up the middle of that petroglyph. Okay, that does it. I think I'm going to end up spending the night here. So just for fun, I skipped ahead to the winter solstice, which would have the sunrise right about there over those rocks. And I've been out here actually at winter solstice around that time, and I remember the sunrise coming up over that direction. I wasn't exactly on this spot, but really nearby. Anyway, so we got the sunrise coming up right there. So the shadow that would cast is there, across that line of the sunburst rays. And let's do sunset. And like water flows downhill, see where the moon is right now? Right about there is where the sun will set on the winter solstice. And as expected, you'd see it from this angle and right across that line. See? Isn't that amazing? Brilliant. I mean, so low tech and with such precision. Now coming around here to the cave, Got some little morteros. I don't know if you can see that. The light's kind of funky. Got one there. A little bit of nice space back in there. There are some other morteros around here, around the corner on other boulders, but this is where we came to hang out. Pretty nice, huh? Nice and cool in here, nice and shady. Got a window. I think this is where all the magic happens. All right, and then on the rock behind at the entrance here, we have, this is the rock that the Yoni's carved on. It's right on top of there, right through that window. Oh, you know what? I wonder if sunset can be seen through there. And do you see this little dagger right here? This little spear-shaped opening. That is the kind of thing that creates a sun dagger on what's behind it. Oh, it's sunset. Let's see what happens. All right, so back to this rock. Okay. So, smoke stain, smoke stain, smoke stain. Except that it's so intense. And this hole over here, smoke stain? Probably not, because how are you getting a fire so perfectly in this hole that's blocked by this boulder? This is really common around here for rocks to have these sort of natural differences in coloration. In fact, a lot of times you'll find pictograph panels inside this. It's almost like it's the Milky Way or something, you know, and images are placed within that area. That's usually the canvas. A lot of times it's the canvas. Then over here, that looks like smoke. It's got that kind of smoky, feathery look to it. You know, people have camped in here in the last couple decades and left a bunch of charcoal. So, I mean, there's definitely smoke, right? But the hard line of this is weird. I think that's enhanced with paint. I'm going to de-stretch that. We're going to see if that's paint or smoke. Here's the rear window, the south-facing window, and it's starting. The window just opened up. The sun just started putting a sun dagger inside this cave. I'm trying, that's my GoPro there, I'm trying to find the best angle to follow that over, because when I came here a couple of years ago, I accidentally came at a time when that sun dagger was poking that hole. So I haven't seen it progress, and that's what we want to see happen. Got a pretty wide angle lens on that GoPro, so hopefully that's a good angle for time lapse. I can't believe what I just found in a charcoal pile. It's a tiny ear of corn. This looks just like the kind of stuff you find out in the Southwest pueblos and the cliff dwellings and the granaries. We are in the land of the river people, the human world. Colorado River floodplains. These people were agriculturalists. So maybe if this is old, if it wasn't grown here in the Utah desert, it was probably grown really nearby. Interesting. Well, this must be the magic hour, because as I'm putting this piece of corn down, I pick up I see this, a piece of pottery. Ha! Yes, I was right. So this morning I looked through there and thought, I wonder, and yep, exactly. Oh crap! You know what? Just in the amount of time it took me to turn on my video, the dagger's disappearing. Hold on, I'll show you a picture of it just 15 seconds ago. Look, it's down to this much, fading. To be honest, it's 111 degrees today, and I had to bail out of here for a while. I couldn't stay and watch the sun all day because I was basically getting heat exhaustion. Come nearby to another cave I've been in before, just to see if the portal window here does anything on the solstice, and I see that the light does come through here on the summer solstice, making a sun dagger. There is not enough time in the day to sit here and watch what this does, but I know it's, at least there has been a nod to it by people in prehistoric times, because it's not just a random light phenomenon in a random cave. There's actually some pretty spectacular pictographs in here. And this really cool infinity tunnel that just seems to go on forever down in the corner here. Maybe I can light it up. I walked over here because I was curious to see if this window would have the sun passing through it on the summer solstice. When I'm sitting comfortably, just comfortably looking through this window, I'm going to use Star Chart app and progress the sun with this view right through that window and see what happens. Okay, so here we are, the moment of truth. The sun is setting behind me there. We've got, this is the exact position I was standing in this morning, looking down on this, what I now think is a calendar. You see my tripod balanced. I told you it would have to balance to be straight for the shadow to cast appropriately, because if I lined it up, you know, like if I'm standing here and I line it up this way, it's tippy. So I know the balance way is the way it has to be here in order to be perpendicular to the ground and make a correct measurement of the sun. And when I do that, this is the shadow that the sun makes on the summer solstice. Can you see? Okay, I'll take it away. See this line right here? The middle line, the through line. The balanced tripod. Can you see it? Cast a shadow right down that ray. I'm so happy right now. Okay, so let's take a look at the sun where it's setting. Looks like the sun's gonna drop right around where I said. We're at 7 p.m. Pacific Daylight Savings Time. We've got about another half hour till actual sunset, so let's see. I think I'm gonna pass out. This just keeps having more and more complexity to it. This is the middle spot where the gnome and stick would go. And here we've got, you see this? A vein of quartz. It's kind of like eroded down here. Holy cow. A vein of quartz that cuts right up the middle, straight to the east, all the way across this rock. All the way across this rock. See that? I mean, okay, there's this word called hierophany that means nature making itself, something natural, making itself sacred. Do you see? Could it be more perfect? A perfect alignment to the sunset on the summer solstice is a vein of quartz running through this rock, which is probably what caused the original crack in the top of this rock that was then enhanced into a giant Yoni petroglyph sun calendar. This is not the first time I've seen something like this. This is really, really specific. I mean, this is very detailed, but I've actually seen out in the Mojave Desert huge, like almost like walls of quartz-like granite that's sticking up from the ground, aligning exactly to either north, south, or east, west. I wonder if there's something about the magnetics of Earth that makes that happen at certain times. Isn't that fascinating? Oh my gosh, it's almost sunset. It's almost the moment of sunset, and there is that sun dipping right into the depression, just like we predicted this morning. Okay, let's do this one more time before the sun goes down. You see the sunset behind me, right in the saddle that we pointed out this morning is exactly where it's set. Okay, so I'm going to line myself up here with my one foot on either side of this center line. I'm going to put my gnomon stick right in the hole. When I place it like this and I look at it directly from my point of view, which you can't really see from here, it balances only when it's, from my point of view standing where I was, it balances when it's aligned with that center line. Now, let's see where the shadow is cast. How can we do this? Okay, I'm going to step over here. The shadow from that sunset, when this is balanced, it means it's perpendicular to the earth. That shadow is where? I can't even see. The sun's in my eyes. Ooh, yes! The shadow is right there on that center line. Do you see it? You see it? Oh my gosh, I'm geeking out right now. It's right there. Right there on that center line. Right there on that vein of quartz. I'm going to pass out. This is so stinking cool. This is just a thought, and I mean it in the most respectful of ceremonial senses, but imagine that you have a person lying with their head here, arms outstretched, spine and legs pointed that way to the rays of the sunset. I mean, truly, if that person is a woman laying on top of a yoni in this setting, truly there is no more perfect representation of fertility. I'm not saying that's what happened, but I am saying that would be amazing as a ceremony. And there goes the sun. The sun is male. The earth is female. And at these wonderful times of year, it's the time when they join together in a really powerful way. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you like that. I made this prayer bowl while I was traveling on this solstice trip. It's in Huichol bead art style, and it's a sunburst for the summer solstice, featuring colors that show plants in full bloom and almost ready to harvest. If you would like to purchase this or any of my other beaded art, you can link to my Etsy shop at theancientsouthwest.com. Thank you. Happy solstice!